Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we're driving a 1963 Porsche 356B Coupe. It's powered by a Super 90 air-cooled flat 4, of course, powering the rear wheels. It's got drum brakes all around, and this is one of the finest examples of one of these cars. Those of you who started typing already saying, Tom, that's a C, that's a T6 body. Well, you are right that it's a T6 body, but this is a 356B. Typically, the B was on a T5 body, but for a short time, the T6 was available, and they were outfitting the 356Bs with what would become the 356C body. So, you're all kind of right, but this is a very special car because it got the upgrade, it got the next generation before the C came out. So it's kind of like, in my brain, the Aston Martin DB4 Series 5. Looks exactly like a DB5, but it is not. So the differences between the T5 and the T6, you get the squared off front lid, you get a fuel filler over here, around back, larger rear glass, and most identifiable is the twin grille deck lid. So if you see this car and you say that's a 356C, I don't blame you. You'd think so, except it isn't. One of the things that you do notice, though, is it has drum brakes all around, so that sort of beifies the whole thing. But anyway, it's got a Super 90 engine. I want to show you under the hood of this thing because this is a really good example of these cars. And the coolest thing, I love Super 90s because they're potent, and this was the fastest, the most powerful version of their pushrod air-cooled engines at the time. It's really fun to drive these. They're grunty, they're angry. It kind of feels like a hot rod from the factory, and 90 horsepower may not sound like a lot, but it was. I mean, that was like a 30% increase over the pre-A cars. So this thing really was putting out some serious power. And you've got dual Solex carbs feeding air and fuel into this thing. And let me show you up front. There's really not a ton of room to utilize up here, but it does give you the opportunity to fix a problem because you've got a full-size spare, you've got a jack, battery, all that good stuff. You could probably finagle some soft bags in here, but not super necessary. What I love about these later 356s is this. It's this fuel filler, because in the earlier cars, the fuel filler, that tank, was just right under here. So it meant that every time you went to a fuel stop, you had to not only lift up your front lid, but you had to lean over the body. And look, I know that we're all careful, but it just leaves room for error, or even just drips of fuel on your beautiful paint. But let's close this up. I think the style of the coupes are just so wonderful. I mean, I love a speedster, and I'm sort of unintentionally on a quest to drive every possible 356 on this channel. It wasn't what I set out to do, but it is a mission that I seemingly have been on for a while. 356s are not large cars, but inside they're so roomy. You've got this big bubble of a roof, so even though that top doesn't come down, you still have plenty of space in here. What you do have, though, are these little kinder seats, but more likely than not, you're going to use them as a parcel shelf, and the use of space in 356s is phenomenally cool. You also are able to open these guys up for airflow, which I really like. We're going to keep them closed. It's a little windy today, and I want to make sure we get the best audio experience out of this. The red leather pops. I am such a fan of a subtle color. I think this is maybe a slate gray. I'm such a fan of a subtle color with a big, bright interior. This is how I always think you should outfit like Aston Martins and stuff as well. When you get a convertible Aston Martin, I'm going off on a tangent, but I think a convertible Aston Martin should have a subtle, classy, maybe gray, silver, black, whatever exterior, and then when you put the roof down, it should be blue, orange, whatever, just some insanity. Let's get it started up because I do want you to hear this thing from the rear. A little bit of throttle. So look, those of you who are not 356 people or even flat 4 air-cooled fans, you may hear this and say, oh, that's a Beetle. And you know what? I'm going to give it to you. It sounds a little diesel-y. But I promise, when we get on the road, you're going to hear this thing under throttle, on load, in high revs, and it is magical. So for those of you who are always out looking for the matching numbers cars, you can find numbers on 356s everywhere. It depends on the year though. So for example, this deck lid has 82. So then you would find that behind the door cards. You're gonna match that up with this number right here. And then you're gonna have engine numbers. So there's an engine number down there. On older cars, this 82 would be through the deck lid on that surface down there. So you just have to know your way around these cars a little bit. It's so revvy. They really want to rip. And that, I think, is the biggest difference between this and a Beetle. Also, check out the way they've integrated the bumpers with the exhaust system. And the fun thing about this is that, yes, they're real pipes coming through, but the pipes aren't connected through the bumpers. That's just a hole to come through, which oddly enough sort of predicted the style of exhaust systems on modern cars. Because if you look at like an Audi or something right now, they're not connected to the actual tips. So you know what? Maybe that's a good predictor of the future. So let's get out and take it for a drive. I bring a fire extinguisher with me whenever I take these old cars out. It's once I have that thought of, hey, what if? Well, it's time to do it. So let's get a plate on this thing and we'll go out. I think this interior is just magical. I love the paint match dashboard, simple layout, very Porsche, and that's something that they carried on through this day where you've got that center mounted tack. Oh, nice clasp. The Blau-punked stereo and your heat controls. Up here, I do think there must be a missing, I'm not gonna touch it because I don't wanna be the one that rips this off, but there must be a missing control there. You've got lights, you've got a big loud horn, but you gotta push hard. But it's cool. This is our parking brake. This is our shifter. We have a 4-speed, just a typical H pattern. And reverse is over and forward, like a Volkswagen of today, into first. A one-way, but I always take it pretty wide because I had someone coming down the wrong way when I was driving a 356 Carrera GT 4Cam. I don't want to get in an accident. do get it if you're a car enthusiast who doesn't quite understand the 356 thing. I didn't really get it until I started driving these cars. And when you get in and you realize how direct and simple they are, that's when they start to take life. And that's when you start to feel a craving to drive them and to drive different versions of them. As a Porsche enthusiast, everyone respects them. This is Genesis. This is the beginning of the brand. But some people don't really get any further than that. They just understand that they're supposed to care, but they don't know why. And that's when I encourage people to try to experience them. And I know that's a tall order. They're not cheap. And they range in price dramatically. I mean, you can be at $100,000, you could be at $1 million, you could be higher. I mean, it really is a low six figures to a seven-figure car, depending on what you're after. But here's the thing. Unlike a lot of cars, even the cheap ones are fantastic to drive. Cheap. Relative term. What I like about this B is this shift throw. It's reasonable. If you get in older cars, the pre-A's and the A's, the shift throws are a mile. In fact, the 2-3 is an out-of-seat experience. I know this is a shakedown, but we're literally shaking down. I mean, there's some dust behind this dashboard that we're removing by driving it. Great turning radius. Okay. Incredibly windy today. I'm surprised we're not getting pushed around. I mean, this is actually remarkably stable. What I like about these cars is that the driver inputs are easy, and all you have to do is worry about the weight transfer. Beautiful Blue Merle Australian Shepherd. Looks just like my sister's dog Zelda. And this would be such a cool car to take your dogs out in. You could be like Jeff Swart with his Bernese Mountain Dogs, or Bernese Mountain Dogs. He shoves those giant dogs into some little cars driving around Colorado. I don't trust blinkers, especially in vintage cars. pull through some of this junk. Very respectable pickup truck, not making any moves until I made it through. There are modern sports cars that would not take this road as well as this 356. I hope one of the messages that gets across in my channel is that more isn't always more. We're always after a lap time or a power setting record for an engine or a ridiculous 0 to 60 time, and those are completely valid metrics to chase, but they aren't the only metrics to chase. And if you're a race car driver, 100%, speed is your thing. That's the only thing to chase. But if you're just a car enthusiast, if you're a car enthusiast, there's so many different reasons to enjoy driving than outright performance. And the thing that this job, that cars like this have taught me, is that a direct experience with the machine is fun and is as valuable, if not more valuable, than the performance metrics that we're chasing in the modern day. Nice and easy past the playground. Little autocross cone here, we like that. So Porsche loves heritage. They love kind of promoting their heritage. They like sometimes wicking away your dollars with minor changes to modern cars that harken back to these days. This tachometer, for example, you'll find that on a 992 Sport Classic. A very similar design, with this sort of sweeping design where the power band really comes on. We always talk slow car fast as being a cool thing because it means that as a driver, you are the reason that the car is going fast. One of the things I really like about cars like this, though, is that you can actually stay in the throttle for a little bit on a public road. It's not an achievable task in most modern cars, even normal cars. A Camry is like ridiculously fast at this point. And if you were to stay in the throttle in a Camry as long as I just did back there in this, you certainly wouldn't want to be spotted by the local authorities, I'll tell you that much. by its size, or a 1600cc displacement, this is a highway runner. It wants to just, I mean, we're only doing 60 here, but if you want to really clock this thing, it'll happily sit at normal highway speeds. It's so stable. I think there's a misconception that Porsche didn't really become Porsche as we know it until the 911. But when you get into a car like this, you're immediately reminded that the history began prior to the 911 and the reputation was becoming established because this handles and it's head and shoulders above some of the competition. And at the time, you would have had a lot of high displacement hot rod American cars doing stuff that this was doing with much less weight and a much simpler power unit. Been watching too much Formula One. You see a car like this at a car show, oftentimes my first thought has been, wow, that doesn't fit into modern traffic. And maybe it's because I'm used to driving these cars all the time that I don't think that anymore. But I do think that within just a few minutes, most people would be pretty confident and comfortable in this. You're not chasing revs, you're not chasing a persnickety gearbox. You can intuitively drive these cars without ever setting sights on these gauges. And then you can just focus on moving it around and placing it and using the throttle, using the brakes. You gotta choose your battles when you're in a relatively slow, small car with no safety features. I mean, I have a seatbelt, but I think that's less about saving me and more about locating the body easier after the accident. This is good stuff. So I'm gonna go bring this thing back to Bond Group. This, like almost every 356 I drive, is just a phenomenal reminder of what Porsche has always been. I want no part in that. Appreciate the cleanup though. In this particular car, if you're looking for one, is going to be for sale on Bring a Trailer. And what I like about this particular car is that it has a bit of a story. It's an oddball. It's sort of a middler thing where you've got this essentially 356C body on an earlier car. Get these revs up. It's the one game you're kind of playing with these cars is that you don't want to like bog these engines down. They don't love that. So you do end up in weird situations where you're like, okay, we're going uphill. We've got to maintain this speed. I'm probably just going to have to rev it out. And that's okay. They're happy there. Would love it if that ratchet Corolla behind me wouldn't tailgate me. It'd be super cool. Alright, well, you get the point. This thing rules. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm always afraid to talk about reliability of classic cars when I'm driving them because I am pretty superstitious, and I feel like the second I say something is running well and it's reliable and it's not going to leave you stranded is about the time when I'm going to need a tow truck. So I'm not going to say any of those things, but I'll let you read between the lines about what I really believe.